Hi everyone, it's Stephanie again, and you are tuned into the review of Married at First Sight, Season 6, Episode 9. So, last night's episode was about the 1 month anniversary. So, everybody celebrated their 1 month. That may seem like not a lot, it's 4 weeks, but in this experiment, it's huge. 1 month is probably equivalent to a year in terms of intensity for them because you literally go from not knowing the person, never having seen them, to being whisked away to getting married first and then the honeymoon and, living with them and meeting families, all of this stuff that's sometimes intense by itself, jam-packed in a month. So it's a huge deal for them to make it because if you guys watch the show, I believe 2 seasons ago, Beyond the honeymoon, one of the couples didn't make it. So it's very possible. So it's really good to see them kind of getting over their hurdles and celebrating 1 month and really doing it all in a very cute way. So let's just kick it off with the first couple. Ryan and Jaclyn. They're interesting to me. I'm starting to see the things that are kind of red flags for me, especially with Ryan. They celebrated their 1 month and it was very sweet. They took time with each other and they did something very sweet together. But during the episode, he also kind of takes her to play soccer, which is something he loved, one of the many things he loves to do. And they have a picnic there. And in one way, I'm seeing that, okay, he's bringing her into his life and showing her things about him that she wouldn't know and little things that matter, like if you ran track in high school or you were a cheerleader and, stuff like that, which is sweet because you're getting to see different sides of that person. What might be a red flag for me is that Ryan's words, and correct me if I'm wrong, or definitely let me know how you feel, Ryan's words don't always match up with his actions. He tends to say what sounds right, but his actions are not always reflective. So although on one end, playing soccer and kind of introducing her to those things, is a good thing. On the other end, for me, it's kind of like he's bringing her into his world, trying to make him fit into his world, not necessarily the merging of the two. And I think Jaclyn, she's just such a sweet spirit. If you watch her, you're like, she's just such a nice girl that, she's not really gonna say much. Gold star for her for last week saying about the time thing, and clearly her love language is quality time. And so that moment in time for her was special because she felt like, okay, he's taking time for me to, spend time with me and show me this aspect of him and so on and so forth. But you see later on in the episode when she talks to a friend feeling frustrated because he's wanting to go out at 11 o'clock, or he'll ask to go out at 11 o'clock at night and just hang out with his friends, and she doesn't want to feel like a mother. And I think this is synonymous with like how a lot of women sometimes feel. Whether you're a mother or not, I think we just have this God-given nature where we can go into that nurturing role. And so if anybody acts like a child, then you usually respond in a way where it kind of mothers them. So she was saying, listen, I don't want to be his mom where you have to ask me to go out and, what time are you coming home? But why that's alarming for me is it shouldn't be happening. And it's not to say that you can't go out when you're married and you can't hang out, but the ways that you did it when you were single is not the way that you do it when you're married. And her frustration saying that it's like all the time is a problem, especially if you've been married for only 1 month. Like this experiment, which you guys know you're a part of, is only 2 months. Like you could put 2 months, you could put a lot of things on ice and kind of just get to know each other, because this is a rapid, intense way of getting to know each other. And really you should be giving 100%. What I'm seeing Ryan do is wanting to have the, addition of the benefits of being married inserted into his single life. And that doesn't work. If you want to get married, your single life has to go away. There are elements of you that don't go away. That's who you are. But in terms of just being out every night, your time is already limited. Specific to Ryan, your time is already limited. You work 2 jobs. One of them is, 48 hours straight. You're not home 2 nights a week. Your wife is kind of, begging and she shouldn't have to. She should be the priority. She shouldn't have to beg for time with you, especially you just met her, in this situation, you just met her a month ago. You really should just be nourishing that. And you're wanting to go out and hang out with friends. I've said before that part of marriage is learning to die to yourself. And by that, I mean learning to put away you being the priority all the time. It's not about you, and you have to just get over it. And if you want to be married, you have to get ready. That's what I mean about preparation for getting married. Get ready to make room in your life for someone else that may come before you at times. It doesn't mean that you're no longer a priority or you don't matter, but two people who go into the idea of marriage thinking that it's important to make the other a priority, they're going to be successful rather than going in with a selfish attitude. Your single days are gone. And if you're not ready for those things, or if you want marriage to be an appendage, a convenient appendage that fits perfectly in your single life, meaning that you can do all your single stuff and hang out with your boys and come home whenever, or hang out with your girls and all these things, and you have the convenience of a spouse when you get back home, don't get married, because you're not ready for it. There are elements of that. If you want to hang out with friends, sure. We all do that. Take a trip, sure. But those things are not every day, all day long. They're actually like fewer and far between than the time with your spouse. And that's really important to do. So he's failing in that way. There's a point where he says something like, oh, we're kind of working on things and we'll figure it out. It doesn't work that way, that you just figure it out, that things just fall into place, is I think something he said as well. You have to be very solution oriented. You have to be very intentional about how those things work out, how they fall into place. So, hey, I like spending time with my friends. I do that. My husband does that. I do that. Hey, I have a girls' night. Or if, I'm in one of my closest friends' wedding, there's a bachelorette weekend coming up. Those things are planned. Those things are like, hey, babe, I'm letting you know. It's not on a Tuesday, I'll be back and I'll come home at any point in the evening or the next morning. And not for him either. That's just not the life of a marriage that has long-lasting power, because so many other things can come up with that. So he really needs to be careful, because some of the ways that he is and some of the ways that he stands by being is so reflective of his single self. And she's going to, at some point, be really frustrated with that. And she's not asking for much, y'all. She's just asking for time and respect. And she doesn't want a mother. As much as it might seem like women naturally go into that mothering phase, we really don't want to, because nobody married their son. They married a grown man, and that's what they want. And so I'm interested to see how that's going to go on. I'm hoping that she finds her voice a little bit more. And when he kind of hits her with the nonsense, because he's like a really slick talker, if you're impressed by that she can kind of redirect him and say, okay, so how are we going to do this? If you say, oh, it'll work out. Well, how? Well, I'll make time. Well, when? I want to go out with my friends. Well, how are we going to work that out to where it's still respectful with our marriage? So that's what I'm hoping for them to kind of get to, and we'll see as that rolls on. So that's Ryan and Jaclyn. Next, Molly and John. So I'm so glad that Molly and John worked it out. I know, and we've all been talking all week about, what a low blow that was and how she responded. And a lot of people are saying, maybe it's because of his lack of job, or, that's not who she wants to be, or maybe she's still into somebody else. I'm not getting the whole lack of job thing. I mean, I understand that that's a concern, but for some reason, that's not the first thing that comes to mind about why she maybe isn't into him right now. Physically anyways. I don't know why that is. I really, if I could have her for a second, I would ask her a bunch of questions that would make it make sense for me, so that I'm not just kind of throwing darts in the air, because history really is very reflective of the present, and it's really important to get that information, but we kind of have to go based off of what we think. I'm glad to see that they started off strong and they moved on. Why I say that is, last week when I was talking about why I felt that he shouldn't have said that, even though his feelings are justified, I also said on the flip side, she shouldn't have responded in the way where she's like, I'm done, I don't want to be with you. She had every right to be upset. I would be pissed. But if we're talking about marriage and the idea that it's long lasting, and the idea that we have to go, up and down, and you have to, learn. I've heard this quote, and you guys may have too, like, marriage is comprised of two great forgivers. You have to forgive because we're human, and sometimes we're impassioned and we respond emotionally. It's not acceptable at all. So, like, nip it in the bud, have that conversation, but you can't just say, I'm done. Otherwise, you'd be done every week or every other week. Or if your spouse is in a bad mood and they snap at you, it's just not a good thing to get into. And I know that he definitely said something very low blow. So totally get it. But I'm so happy to see that he immediately addressed it. He bought her flowers. They had a conversation about it. She said her piece. He said his, and they got it, and they moved on. That is such a beautiful example of how it should be, and really how it happens a lot of the time. You guys kind of get in your space, you deal with it, and then you move forward because there's life to live. You add some kids into that, you have to move forward much quicker because there are things to get done. There's a life to live, and you get out of that high emotional intense space and you move on to the next place. So I'm glad to see that they really approached it in an adult way where, a lot of times last week everybody was like, oh, they're done, this is not going to work out. But like, I had hope for Jephte and Shawniece for so long, even though I was really frustrated. So I'm feeling the same way with Molly and John, where I feel like things are not as bad as they may come across. We also have to think that this is edited a certain way, so for us, it's like, oh my God, this is the end. We don't know what other conversations happened. We don't know other elements of their relationship. What I do like seeing is that she's still all in. She's still wanting to build and hoping that something can grow. And I feel like, and I hope I'm right, I feel like they will turn a corner in a really positive way, because what I do enjoy about watching them is that they have a really good friendship. And sometimes people say friendship is love on fire. I know people who weren't necessarily immediately attracted to their spouse, and then it grew. It sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. It's not black and white where if she's not immediately attracted, it's not going to happen. And it's not black and white that if she is immediately attracted, that they would actually have a good marriage, because there's a lot of little details at play here. So what I'm liking them doing together is really enjoying that person, because that's another thing. Like, when you get married, it's not just about the attraction. It's really, that ends up being like a lot lower than other things. It's very important, okay? So listen to me when I say that. It is very important because, intimacy and sex and physical touch, all those things, stem from that. But a lot of the times you're not, having sex all day, every day. You're not, jumping on poles or doing whatever. Those are more few and far between than what's for dinner. I mean, that is the question that you get every day, all day long. And you have the what's for dinner conversation way more than you have sex. So if you can't enjoy each other or spend time with family or do a nice date night or do an adventure together or travel, if you can't do all of these things, the attraction is great, but it's not sustainable for an entire marriage. So what I'm just looking at, because I try to be an optimist, is I like seeing them together. I like seeing them enjoy themselves. I'm hoping that it turns a corner for her and that love and attraction grows from there. So we'll see with them. They got over a good hurdle, and I'm glad to see that, because if they were very attracted together and they attracted to each other and they got along really well, that would be great. But the getting over the hard stuff is what counts and what lasts longer than, they get along really well and they have fun together, but they have an argument and they don't know how to communicate. And we've seen them struggle with communication for a while. So it's good to see them kind of working that out, moving forward, enjoying the simple things, being on the same page about loving adventure and wanting to do something in that way. So I really liked them this episode. I thought that they did a great job, and I'm looking forward to seeing them more. So Shawniece and Jephte, last couple, I'm loving them. It's just such a contrast from the first few weeks of this experiment, and it's so good to kind of start diving into just seeing them enjoy each other, have a good time, joke more. It's you were like, oh, Jephte, he's funny. The guy who really didn't have much to say besides stranger danger is like hilarious, because his the way that he interacts with her is funny, even though it's like low and a little sarcastic. But she gets it. She's happy. She doesn't really mind it, and she doesn't take it personally, and they're just enjoying each other. It's very casual. It's very easy. He gets her a gift. He gets her 2 gifts for their anniversary. One is like a snow globe, and the other is a plaque, like a lighted plaque that says Mrs. Pierre. Now, that was very sweet. She got very emotional, and we know Shawniece is a crier, so I lightweight was like, okay, here we go again. Like, it was sweet, but here we go again. But what I found on the after show, why that was so special, and I usually don't watch the after show or the before show. I've probably watched it once. I just keep forgetting about it, but I was able to see it. Why that moment was so special is Jephte explained that one time when they were going to change their license, well, she was going to change her license, he said at the beginning, I think in the stranger danger phase, where he was like, you might want to hold off on that. And he was like laughing because I think he was embarrassed that, looking back, he told her that, but you kind of want to hold off on that. So for her, who's so excited to be married, and I'm going to change my last name, it's like one of the most fun, annoying things to do, because it's a lot more work than people think. For women who've done it, it's a lot of work. For women who haven't done it, it will be a lot of work. But it's fun, it's exciting, and you're excited to do it. So when your husband puts the brakes on that, even though it's an experiment, I'm sure her emotions were really hurt. So, and he said that, that he felt bad, but back then he was kind of like, wait. So that's why she had such a extreme, for us, because we didn't see it, such an extreme response to that plaque, because it felt like it told her that he accepts her. And he's all in. And that's what he said. He wanted her to know that he was 100% in, which is why he gave her that, so that they can be a unit. And that's why. So when I saw that explanation on the after show, I was like, oh, that makes sense. And what a beautiful way to communicate. And he even said, listen, I don't communicate that well. Sometimes I say the wrong things. So I try to follow it up with action. And I love that he knows that. For her, she gave him a gift. The gift was cute. It was socks and a nice shirt. Why that was funny to me is because he was kind of joking, like socks or nice shirt, but he was like, I really like it. He's grateful that she makes the effort. One poignant thing that he says, because it was kind of like, okay, it's socks and a nice shirt, is that he was like, he hasn't really, she needs to get to know him, basically, is what he says. Like, she needs to get to know him. Like, she got me, is what he's saying. She got me socks and a shirt because she knows that I wear nice socks and she knows that I wear nice shirts. So you see Shawniece kind of grasping at whatever she can grasp at, whatever she knows for fact. And he says, well, it's kind of like as she gets to know me, or she needs to get to know me, something like that. So what I love about him saying that is that he recognizes that he needs to let her in a little bit more. And I think he's doing that. But I think the gift was a reflection for him that, oh, she doesn't really know me as well as she can know me. And he seems to be willing to let her know more, so that, not that he has to get a sentimental gift. He didn't say it that way, but it was more like, okay, she doesn't even know what type of sentimental gift to get me if she wanted to. And the way that he said it came from an accountability standpoint, where he recognized that, it's something like he kind of needs to open the door. Like, the door is open. It's cracked now. It was like shut, bolted down. It's cracked. You can slide in if you turn to the side, but now he needs to open it up and let her in, and kind of, continue to do what they do and let love grow. I'm enjoying really seeing them. I think the test to see how their new dynamic will work will come when they have a problem, because we've seen them on the extreme ends of both sides. So I don't want to say I'm looking forward to conflict, but I am looking forward to seeing how they navigate conflict, because that will be the true test of their dynamic, and you will be able to see what they work really well at and where they need improvement and how strong they really are. So that's pretty much it. It was a really solid episode, and like I said, I don't really watch the ones coming up. I wanted to peek, but I was like, okay, that's gonna throw me off, so I'm just gonna wait and see. But so far so good. So we shall see if you liked it. As usual, comment and subscribe. And I will see you next week. Everybody have a great week.